I'm John Lynch. I'm the CEO of Lynka. We're a apparel company and a decorator who services all over Europe. We've been in business since 1992, so we've been around for 23 years. And we're known as one of the better, I would say, apparel and decorators in Europe. And so I've asked today to talk about a couple things. One is how we built a world-class apparel company from nothing about 20 years ago. And secondly, how we got into the promotional products business. Because a lot of screen printers and a lot of companies in the apparel side have found there's huge opportunity to grow their businesses in the non-apparel side, which we've also done over the years. So just to start the presentation, I'm going to show a very small clip of my company. It's about 7 minutes long, and then I'll go into the presentation. Is there music? Is there sound? Okay.
I'm Dorota, I am Lynka.
I am Jola, I am Lynka.
I am Mietek and I am Lynka.
I'm Tomek and I am Lynka.
I'm Gosia and I am Lynka.
I'm John, and I am Lynka.
The seeds of Lynka are in the fall of communism in Poland, in Central Europe actually. This fall started in Poland with the elections of June the 4th, and then it was followed by the fall of communism in Czechoslovakia, in Hungary, and in East Germany with the fall of Berlin Wall, and at the end of it, this bloody revolution in Romania. The MB Enterprise Corps. It was a program under which American volunteers were coming to different Central European countries, and they were joining companies or sometimes some other institutions, and were helping them in the process of transformation toward democracy and capitalism. There were two people, John Lynch and Kalen. Most of American volunteers were going back to their homeland, but John and Ann decided to stay and start their own company called Lynka.
So I guess the first milestone of Lynka was when we founded the company back in June of 1992. We did it right here on Grotkere 360. That's Aleja Grotkere in Krakow. And the building over my shoulder, that's the first headquarters of Lynka. By 1992, there were many people coming to Krakow and asking where can they buy t-shirts with Krakow or Wawel or Poland on it, and the answer was you can't. And so from that, the idea for Lynka was born. Afterwards, we hired our first employee, Teresa. We worked right upstairs in this apartment on Grotkere. It was just the three of us. Not much money, but a lot of enthusiasm and a big idea for the future.
Kamieniem milowym w historii Lynki było utworzenie produkcji w 1993 roku. Jestem najstarszym pracownikiem niemalże. Pierwsze moje jak gdyby przyjście do firmy było tak naprawdę tak jakbym weszła do domu, gdyż były tylko 3 pomieszczenia. W jednym znajdowała się mała ręczna maszyna, w drugim jakaś tam naświetlarka, jakieś tam pseudobiuro.
In 1997, we had a relationship with an American company called Mirror Image in Boston, who was one of the top screen printers in the United States. And we agreed the Site of Technology agreement where they came to Poland, taught our people how to print at this high quality level. And we even sent quite a number of our printers to the United States to work for several weeks in order to learn the business there. So once that happened, it put Lynka in another league.
My name is Rick Roth. I have a nickname, Biscuit, in Polish. They call me Herbadnik. When we first got to Lynka, they couldn't print to save their lives, really. I mean, they were trying and they were so close, but they just needed a little bit more information. They didn't really need training from the ground up. They just needed a few things that they were doing changed. And they went from really not very good to 7 months later, they printed this Mazowszanka, which is a Polish water bottle company, and they did this perfect reproduction They were able to do it on their own, and really the sky's been the limit since. And Lynka is one of the best printing companies in the whole world, and they have deserved everything they got because they started from very humble beginnings and they figured all of this out.
1997 was such a big year for Lynka because that's when we won our first printing award. John gathered us at production and he told us and just called me and we won the gold medal. The room went crazy. No one could believe it. We were one of the best in the world. This was the first time in SGIA history when the company outside the USA won the gold medal.
When we moved into our new factory, and it was in March 2000, and it was a very important day in our history. We were all proud of the old Lynka building, but honestly, it wasn't very nice. The builder started working in November 1999, and we moved in March 2000. When we moved into a new building, everybody was so proud. It was so big and so beautiful. All the employees felt so much better. And so did Lynka clients.
I've been at Lynka since the very beginning, but one of the days that really stands out in my mind is our first PSI trade show in Düsseldorf in 2005. Until then, Lynka was selling almost entirely in Poland. When Poland joined the EU in 2004, it opened up the way for us to start exporting products all over Europe. On our booth at PSI, we had hundreds of new clients from all over Europe. Germany, Austria, Switzerland, France, Holland, Belgium, and across whole Scandinavia. Today, thanks to that first PSI show, we supply hundreds of promotional companies in 22 countries.
The global recession 2009-2010 was a tough time for everyone. However, in 2011, Lynka bounced back strongly with its best ever financial performance. That was also an important year for Lynka, as we've been chosen as an official supplier by Nike. More than just a great sportswear brand, Nike is a very demanding client. So being chosen by Nike is a real distinction and highly regarded by the market. We were especially proud when the Polish national team took the field at Euro 2012 wearing Nike shirts that had the Polish eagle embroidered by Lynka. Nike even made a movie about it, filmed at Lynka, of course.
In 2012, so here we are, 20 years later, little company of 3 people started in a back room with a closet of about 25 t-shirts, has grown into one of the leading companies in Europe of what we do. I'm very proud of what we've accomplished in these last 20 years. I'm very, very grateful to the people who have given us their confidence, from our clients, most of all, in Poland and across Europe, our employees who have stuck with us thick and thin, and our suppliers who, in many, many times, really were the difference between life and death. So we have many, many people to thank, and I'd like to just thank you for being with us here today and sharing us on this very, very important milestone. 2012, 20 years of Lynka, and we're just getting started.
100 lat Lynka.
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 Okay, are we back to my voice? You hear me? Okay. Okay, so that's the Lynka story. I thought if I'm going to talk about building an award-winning company in Europe, I ought to establish some credibility by showing what we've achieved. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about something not typical probably for a FESPA presentation, because I'm not going to talk about screen printing or not talk about screens or what inks we use. I've got a not typical background for our industry because I came from big U.S. industry. I worked for Procter & Gamble. I worked for a management consulting firm. I have a very formal business background. So I have approached our industry from a very traditional business point of view. We've always had a business plan, financials, run it like a corporation when we were 6 people in terms of organizational structure. And I think that's what really has been the key to Lynka's success, is the discipline of running a small business like a structured company from the beginning. And I just wanted to share that because I think if people say to me, and I remember having the same conversation 20 some years ago with another famous, even more famous American screen printer, Johnny Weiss from New Buffalo's Shirt Factory. What's your key to success? Is it the ink? Is it the machine? And everybody was looking for that key to how do you grow a big screen print business into a successful business. And he said, well, it's much more complicated than that. It's not just the machine or just the ink or this, it's the whole thing. And so since I'm trained in business, I thought I would talk about those aspects of running a screen print or a promotional apparel business as a real business, because that's really what our key to success has been. That's just my own background. Basically, I'm a mechanical engineer with an MBA in business. I worked for Procter & Gamble, and then I've been running Lynka since 1992. So that's my full-time job for 23 years. I don't think there are also many people in our industry who stick it out that long. As the film said, my adventure began not far from here with the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of communism in Eastern Europe, when the US government was sending some American business people off to Eastern Europe to help get capitalism started. So I came here as a volunteer, working with entrepreneurs in Poland, teaching them how to do business, and then started my own business. So the presentation I was asked to give is what it takes to be a world-class, award-winning decorator and a promotional products company. 2 industries that 20 years ago that were quite separate and today are coming more and more together every day. It's the same people at the trade shows, at the BSI, ASI, SGIA, and FESPA. It's all the same players going to both. So these 2 industries have actually already merged, so it's an absolute apropos topic to discuss. So for me, building a world-class company has been really about building any world-class company. It started with mission and vision of the company and core values. I'm a big fan of Jim Collins and the book he wrote called Good to Great. I think is the best business book ever written, particularly for entrepreneurs, but also for corporations. He talks a lot about core values, which really is at the heart of our business success. A commitment to quality, and I don't want to sound like a broken record or a bad advertisement, but I think this has also been critical. Research and development and a long-term perspective. So just to show that we have a little credibility, in Europe, Lynka has won more awards for screen print and decoration on garments than any other company in the European Union. And it's been a long time. The first one we won in 1997 at SGIA, and since then we've won over 40 international awards at competitions around the world. And it's a lot of work to stay at that level. Our critical USP, this speed, precision, innovation, they're all 3 parts of our core business model. So let me begin with vision, because people misunderstand vision. I think that the promotional clothing, the screen printing business is on a cusp of change. We heard people talking about digital printing. We heard talk about the integration of printing with the apparel manufacturing. A lot of things are changing in this industry. And my vision for Lynka is that we can be a part of changing the game in Europe in the promotional apparel business. And it's through our unique approach to how we do this, which I'll talk a little bit more about. Core values, if you read Jim Collins' Good to Great, they analyzed data over about 75 years to find out what made companies better than their competitors. And one thing that came consistently through was those companies that had really crystal clear values that went all the way through the organization, whatever those values might be. It might be quality. It might be like Hewlett Packard, a real commitment to science and research, or like 3M or others. But you have to have core values that you communicate down the line and everybody in the company understands. Our core values, which what they say is like personal values, you don't decide what your values are, you have them. You got them from your parents, from your education, from your church, or from wherever, and that's what creates core values. In a business, it's the same thing. The founders create a company with core values that evolve. And in our case, values were quality in everything we do. When we were a small little company, we bought small equipment, but the best equipment. We bought Newman roller frames when we were a 6-person company. We went for the best in everything we did. And that is just, we never sacrifice quality for cheapness, for shortcuts, for selling the client something to win an order. We think that quality is the characteristic that has led more than anything to our being sustainably in a leading place in Europe. Caring deeply about customers. Now, I will admit that every company out there is going to say we have a customer culture and we care about customers. But what we say is that if we disappoint our customer, we lose sleep. We know our customers are generally small promotional agencies, small companies selling promotional apparel, and their lives depend on them getting the order done on time. If we let them down, we haven't let down Coca-Cola. We've let down some entrepreneur who's fought hard to win his client. So we really care about the clients, and that permeates the organization. A great atmosphere. The market is getting more competitive for people everywhere. We just heard in China, they're working on ways to supplement manufacturing with technology because labor is not expected to stay cheap forever. So you need a good team of people, and that means you have to have a good atmosphere. The bosses who run around screaming at their employees are going to be standing in empty halls. So there's market forces and conscious, which says be a good employer. Rock solid integrity, which maybe is a no-brainer in most Western countries, but in Eastern Europe, it certainly wasn't a fait accompli in the early years. There was a lot of corruption in business in that part of the world, and we stuck to our guns that we're going to stay high ethically in the way we do business. And finally, this Japanese sexy word kaizen, or continuous improvement, is really where it is, because nobody has that many ideas these days, except maybe Mark Zuckerberg, that are going to change the world. If you're in our industry, then the changes are going to be marginal. A little improvement here, a little improvement there. And if you do that every day, at the end of the year, you're about 7% better than last year. And that's a good year, because we're not going to see too many 30% better years, not in terms of sales, but in terms of internal operational improvement. So those are the core values of Lynka. And I think the employees, they're all taught that on day one, and they understand that this is what's driving our long-term success. Now, how we maintain world-class quality in our business? Well, we attend FESPA, we attend the US trade shows for years. We are learning constantly. We hired a full-time R&D manager. I haven't met too many companies in our industry that have a full-time R&D manager who's just experimenting with new technologies, new ways to print, new inks. We have, as David said before me, we have close relationship with suppliers and learning from them all the time. Investing in training, investing in new technologies, obsessive about procedures. I would say if one thing you were asked the employees of my company, a real key to how we've scaled what we do is that we are just anal about procedures. Because if you've got one manual press and the boss yelling, print this order, not too many mistakes are going to happen. When you have one automatic, it gets a little more complicated. When you get 2, 3, then things start falling apart. And if you don't have rock solid procedures, then it's not going to grow. And finally, we always buy the best. We never go cheap, whether it's chemicals, screens, inks, equipment, IT. We find every time we think we're going to save money by buying something cheaper, it doesn't pan out. So that all leads to a long-term perspective, which in our case is 23 years. Now I'm going to switch over to a short discussion about promotional products. I'll show a few statistics from my friends at ASI, the American Promotional Industry Organization. The promotional products industry is 10 billion euros in Europe, according to some sources. Clothing or apparel is about 3 billion. It's about 30% of the total, which happens to be the same in the United States. So, apparel is, as you can see on the chart, the largest single category in the promotional products part of the industry. But it still only represents 30% of all purchases of promotional items. What it means is if you're not selling promotional items, then you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And most entrepreneurs figure that out on their own. They see the client comes and says, we want 500 t-shirts, 200 t-shirts. Can you do us some coffee mugs too? And for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you say, no, we don't do coffee mugs, we don't do pens, we just do t-shirts. You finally say, geez, maybe we should do those coffee mugs and pens too. And that's why our industries are not even on a collision crash. It's just an emerging trend. So the question is, how do you get a piece of the promotional products pie? And our industry is really quite unique. Not at the manufacturer level, but at the company level, the printers, the decorators. It's all entrepreneurial. It's all owners, individual owners of businesses trying to make a living, trying to build a business. And that means trying to make more money. And the way to make more money is to sell more products. So how do you get a piece of the promotional products pie? We started in 1999. For the first 7 years, we only sold apparel. In the year 2000, we started selling promotional items. It started very slowly. It wasn't even 5% of our sales. And then over years, it gradually increased to where it's a substantial part of the business today. Just a couple slides about how to get into promotional products. This could be a day-long seminar. I only have about 10 minutes. So I'll just hit a few key points that hope send you in the right direction. Number one, invest in learning. Like we talked about investing in training, you need to join the industry organizations. If you're in Europe, join the PSI. There's EPPI, there's the British BAGDA and BIPMA. Join your local organization, go to their trade shows, learn about what's going on, come to seminars. I was talking to Charlie Tobley earlier. In the United States, you get 100 people standing room only in the training sessions. In Europe, it hasn't caught on that way. It's generally a lot less, and I think that there's a huge growth potential for companies who decide to invest in training and educating themselves. Attending shows, asking questions, inviting suppliers. Suppliers are so willing to teach, and if you're not selling promotional items, get the promotional item companies to come and talk to your team. That's how you get to train them for free. And then train your sales force. Number one, it's the number one problem, is people who sell apparel have a hard time selling the hard goods. They just don't have it in their blood, and therefore it generally takes a long time for them to get there. Lastly, I say here, think like a salesman and not like a printer. The job is not to just get more sides to print on bags or caps. The job is to sell more and make more money. So stop thinking about filling capacity and thinking about how to sell more effectively. So, as I say here, adding promotional products to your portfolio is about making more money and not about printing more items, which a lot of people in the beginning make that mistake. So, tap into existing clients. If you're working for a big corporate and they're buying apparel, you have credibility, and it's a pretty short step to offer them promotional items. Limit your suppliers and product categories at first. Don't go to PSI or the US shows and meet 1,000 suppliers and start offering everybody stuff. Find 2 or 3 or 4, build a relationship, learn that business, sell those, and then move on. You don't have to sell everything. If the client asks you for something, we had a client ask us for badminton rackets. We said, sure, we can do it. We looked for badminton rackets. I still have 40,000 badminton rackets that are all rusty in my warehouse. So it's not a good idea to sell what you don't know anything about. Sales reps are going to need time. The more you invest and train them, the better chance they could learn how to sell promotional items. And because they need to understand the print methods, the qualities, the issues that are completely different than the apparel side. And a few caveats I thought I would end with. Screen printing on textiles is probably one of the single most complicated decoration techniques in printing on stuff, on pad printing, etc. It's harder. But don't make the mistake of thinking that just because it's laser or pad print or some other decoration that it's easy and you can't make mistakes. There are 1,000 ways you can screw up every technique of decorating. So, apparel sales reps often have problems. Beware to say we can do everything. I hear promotional companies say this all the time. Find a niche, learn products, and specialize. Beware of importing directly from China. It's so easy to go online and look for any product made in China and find a supplier or an agent or somebody's cousin. And it is not as easy when a container comes and it's rusty or damaged or has holes in it. The people who import for a living know what they're doing. It's worth working with them. Unless you've gone to China a half dozen times and you're really working with a good supplier, I would warn strongly against making that move. Beware of unproven lowball suppliers. Sales reps are always saying, we need a cheaper supplier of ceramic mugs or of pens. Well, if you buy cheap, you get cheap. So I would be warned against just picking suppliers based on who has the cheapest range of products. So that's really what I wanted to say today. I wish you luck in your journey of either building a world-class company or adding promotional products to your portfolio. You feel free to contact me. My email address, I think, is up here. And we have friends all over the world, and I invite you to Krakow to come see us and share a vodka together. Na zdrowie. Thank you and good evening.